2011 in Czechoslovakia. Dargo's full name is Dargo dept and carries the rank of Captain in the York County Sheriff's Department. Lieutenant David Godfrey, here to my left, is his handler. Drago was purchased as a result of Think Loud LLC, comprised of Bill Hines and the members of band Live, who donated the funds to secure Captain Dargo. He is trained in explosive detection, tracking, building searches, area searches, article searches, and other detection abilities. Captain Dargo is certified through the National Association of Professional Canine Handlers, American Police Canine Association, and North American Police Work Dog Association. Captain Dargo provides security to all county government buildings, as well as support and assistance to all law enforcement agencies throughout the county. So many of you did get to see him do a little presentation ahead of time and asked a lot of questions, but I'm sure we'll hear a lot more interesting information from Lieutenant Godfrey.
I promise that's not him being mean. He just likes getting very vocal. He feels the excitement in a room, so he has a tendency to want to jump in the middle of it. But being a big shepherd, pure black, 85 pounds, coming at you at 40 miles an hour, that can be a little intimidating. So that's why I gave everybody the disclaimer at the beginning. Before I get started, is anyone either allergic to dogs or afraid of dogs? By hands, anyone? Does anyone object if I take him off his leash and just let him wander around if he wants to? Just don't play. Everybody left your guns and your bombs in your car, right? Well, as the judge said, I'm Lieutenant Godfrey, and more importantly, this is my partner. This is Captain Dargo. He is, like she said, a pure-blooded German Shepherd. He is almost 6 years old, and I've had him as a partner for 4.5 years now. We currently have 4 canines in our sheriff's office. We have a bloodhound named Lou. He's almost 10 years old. He's probably going to retire by the end of the year. And then we have 3 German Shepherds. We have Dargo, we have Tommy, and we have Hawk. And they all perform the same tasks. Their primary function is explosive detection. They're bomb dogs. To be certified as bomb dogs, they had to learn 18 different odors. And on qualification day, they had to score 100%. If they would have missed one of those 18 odors, they would have failed. To give you a correlation to that with drug dogs only have to learn 8 different smells, and they can miss 20% and still pass. So these guys have a much tougher time at certifying. But obviously, if you have a drug dog and he misses a joint in the car, someone's going to get high. If these guys miss a pipe bomb, somebody could die. That's why they have a higher rate of success to where they can't have any failure for missing an odor. Dargo is actually up to about 27 different types of odors right now. Because obviously as we learn new smells, bad guys try to learn new ways to defeat us. So we are always training and always upping our game. Now that's his primary function, but he does other jobs too. He can find guns. Guns use black powder, which are one of the bombs, one of the explosive odors that he's trained on. Normally we get called out for things like that at schools. We were up at Northeastern 2 years ago. There was a juvenile that put on his Facebook page that he was going to bring a gun to school and nobody would know when. So when there's threats like that, as the kids are coming into the school, we can check all the bags, we can have the dogs on the ready just to make sure guns don't come in, so that he can find handguns, which are good in those environments. He can do tracking. Now Lou, our bloodhound, he is the ultimate tracker. You will not beat a bloodhound when it comes to tracking, but these guys are pretty good too. So when you have a fugitive that runs from the police, they call us out. Like yesterday, I was called out by York Area Regional for a bank robbery down at Red Line to track the guy that robbed the bank. So they can't do that job. He can do something called an area search. An example of an area search would be, for example, we have an Alzheimer's patient that walks away from their home, gets lost in the woods. We've had this call somewhere in the neighborhood 10 to 15 times last year. And this could be areas that are hundreds of acres of wooded areas. I can send him on an open search, just let him run through the woods. He will find that person no matter where they are. Same concept, but in a building, something called a building search. Let's say you have a criminal break into a building in the middle of the night. The police get called to that location and they search that building. They cannot find that person. They would call me. He will do a search of that building. He will find that person no matter where they're hiding. We actually do this drill over at Edgar Foss Smith Middle School in the city. It's a 3-story school. I'll have the deputy go and hide in that school for 15 minutes, and then I'll send Dargo loose. In the 4.5 years that I've had him, it has never taken him longer than 1 minute and 30 seconds flat to find that person in that 3-story school. If you equate that to manpower for police officers, searching a 3-story building versus 1.5 minutes, you can see how good they are at what they do. And then the last thing you can do, which is pretty cool, is something called article searches. An example of that would be somebody breaks into your house tonight. They steal your jewelry. As they're running away, the police are getting close. They don't want to get caught with what they just took. So they start tossing everything. I can send him on a search of everywhere that person was. He will find everything they threw, as small as a vacuum to an earring. Now for him, his nose is that sensitive. Like for example, when we do odor work, like if I had a bomb inside this room here, for him, he needs 1 particle out of 1 billion particles of air to give me a positive alert. That's how good their noses are. And his nose can distinguish if the odor is coming from the left or if it's coming from the right. So when it comes to the jobs they do, you really can't beat these guys. They are smelling machines and they just want to work. We stay quite busy, Dargo and I. Last year, we had roughly 60 call-outs. This year, we're on pace for about 100 call-outs. We also do about 100 of these types of talks every year, too. So you can see how the need's there for more dogs, and that's why we now have 3. Now, along with that, we do get to do some things that are pretty cool that, I've never had the experience of doing before. 2 years ago, we were down in Philadelphia when the Pope came to town. Myself and another K-9 team, we were responsible for the Paoli train station, which had 60,000 people enter that train station to go into Philly. And we had to make sure no one had any guns, bombs for the entire weekend. So that was a pretty cool experience. Last year, we really worked pretty hard with the presidential campaign. Regardless of which side of the fence you were on, we did Donald Trump rallies, we did Bernie Sanders rallies, we did Hillary rallies, and the scope of the job that we had to do for those rallies, as a handler, it taught me a lot. Because if you can imagine, like for example, I'll give you one of the Donald Trump rallies we did, and I think we did 6 of them. We had to show up probably in the neighborhood of 10 hours before anybody was in line. I'll give you the Hershey Park Arena one, the last one he did locally. We started at the airport. We had to sweep from the airport to the Hershey Park Arena. And that was roughly 20 miles, the path that he drove. Anywhere there was trees, anywhere there was a parked car, anywhere there was a tractor trailer yard, we had to get out and check. And then the Secret Service put in their counter snipers. We get to Hershey Park Arena, we had to check all the vehicles in the parking lot. We had to check the interior of the Hershey Park Arena. Once we got done with all that, we then had to be stationed outside and check every one of the 20 to 30,000 people that were in line. So when you have a rally like that, what would normally be an 8-hour day has now evolved to an 18-hour day of nothing but solid work. So it was a good experience we got to do things like that. He also has quite a unique personality. My wife likes to tell me that he has no personality whatsoever, that he's very dry, but she just doesn't see how he acts at work. I'll give you an example. Walmart up in Dauphin County on the east side of Harrisburg. I've been up there probably in the neighborhood of 8 times for bomb threats. And the state trooper that has that jurisdiction, I don't know if he likes messing with me or what, but one of the areas of the store that he always gives me to search is the toy section. And Chucklehead here, I say that affectionately, it's one of my pet names for him. He is funny. We'll clear the first aisle of toys, no problem. We'll come down the second aisle, I'll turn around and I'll look. He has pulled every single stuffed animal off the shelf. He doesn't play with them, he just doesn't like where they are, so he puts them somewhere else. When we're doing bomb searches at schools, we're about 20 minutes into a search, and we'll be checking lockers. He'll reach up and he'll bite me in my butt. He likes to tell me he's the one that's working hard, and I'm just walking beside him. And then I look at him like, Dargo, and he looks up, what? I didn't do anything. But it's been a lot of fun working with him. Our call-outs, the majority of them are bomb threats, usually to schools. Thankfully, York County, the kids haven't got to the point of some of the other counties. New Oxford High School takes the cake for the majority of my call-outs. I've been to New Oxford High School, somewhere in their neighborhood of about 28 times in 4.5 years for bomb threats. 1 year, I mean, it was like every week I was up there 4 times a week. I have been to Central High School and I've been to some other local ones, but they take the cake up at New Oxford High School, so let's keep it that way. Keep it out of York County if we can. And to give you an example of a bomb threat, when we go in and we clear something, Central High School, everybody's familiar with that school? I like to consider that school like a metropolis. When I go there, if they want a detailed search of that school, I'm calling in 3 to 4 dogs to help me. And even with 4 dogs helping me, it's still going to take us anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to clear that school. That's the resources you need for a facility such as that when it comes to clearing. Now, I can actually talk forever about my guy, and I know I'm on limited time here, and I don't want her to throw anything at me. She's threatened me with a brick. No, I'm kidding. So if you do have any questions, please raise your hands. I don't want to cut you off. I know sometimes there are some very inquisitive things about these guys that you want to know. So, yeah, sure. Good question. His question was, does he live with me? Yes, he does. That's one of the downsides, you could say, of being a K-9 handler, is that we are on call 24/7. When we take on these guys, it's a responsibility that no matter what day of the week it is, what time of the day it is, if there's a call, we're going to go and help. It's like I've told some other people here, I'm a boring guy. If my phone rings after 7 p.m. at night, it's 911 calling me out. If they don't call you out at 7 p.m., they call you out at 2 a.m., they call you out at 3 a.m., they call you out at 1 a.m. But that's the only downside to having him at home with you, is you are on call. But in that same regard, we will not be the reason that child goes missing and not found. We will not be the reason that something goes bad. If we can help, we're going to do it. And all my guys know that, and they've signed on to that. Yes, sir.
When you scan an area like Paoli Station, how often do you find something?
That weekend, the question was, how often do we find something when we do a search such as Paoli Station? That weekend, nothing. And I'll give you a clarification on that. I always get asked, well, what's he ever found? Has he ever found a bomb? In training, all the time. In real life, never. And that's the difference between bomb dogs and drug dogs. I hope we go our entire career with never finding an actual bomb. Drug dogs, they get all the glory. We found kilos of this, we find money here. Myself personally, if we find a bomb in a school, I think we have a much bigger issue as a society than just that bomb being in that school. So I hope we never find anything, and I'll be totally good if he never finds anything in a school when we have an actual call out. Now, he has found guns that have been tied to homicides. We found clothes tied to bank robberies. We found shell casings, different things of that nature. When it comes to actual bombs, I'm good if he never finds any. Yes, sir.
How long have you been a K-9? I assume you started as a police officer.
Question was, how long have I been a handler? He's my first dog. I've had him 4.5 years, so he broke me in. I didn't break him in, he broke me in and told me how I was going to be. 4.5 years now. But I've been with the Sheriff's Office 16 years. In that time span, I've pretty much done every job we have: court security, transports. I was in charge of the warrant division. I worked the fugitive task force with marshals, things of that nature. So definitely my most challenging job to date, but yet my most rewarding. No matter how bad your day is, you look down at it. I mean, can you think of a better job than taking your dog to work with you every day? So, very rewarding. Yes, sir.
What's the length of service that they'll provide to you, the Sheriff's Department?
Good question. Length of service is anywhere from 8 to 11 years old. With these guys here, we have to go and train with a master instructor 16 hours a month, and we have to recertify every year. So every year we go back out to Ohio and we recertify. So as long as he keeps passing all the recertification tests and he stays healthy, he'll stay on the job. Yes, ma'am.
How many years did it take before you got the dog? Who did what to it before it came to you?
Question was basically, what did Dargo do before I got him, essentially?
Right, who trained you?
Yeah. Dargo came to me as a totally green dog. He had no training whatsoever. I had no training whatsoever. So we both went into it new. And the reason you don't train the dog in advance is because you don't know what that department's going to want the dog for. You don't know if he's going to be a drug dog, a bomb dog, a cadaver dog. That's why you don't do training in advance. I got him when he was 18 months old, and up to that point, he had very little obedience, but that was it. But like with him and I, the bond was almost immediate. I went out and I tested dogs, I want to say it was in March, 5 years ago, and I tested 5 different dogs, and he's the one I picked. My class didn't start until the end of May. So I went back out in May to pick him up, and as soon as I stepped out of the car, he started jumping up and down. He started looking at me, so it was like the bond was immediate with him. It was very different with Dargo and I. It was just there from the start and never ended. On the plane ride back, he was in my lap the whole time, which that's a funny story. You can never say these guys are not spoiled. They are so spoiled, it's ridiculous. And the band Live and Bill Hines from Think Loud, they still do it to this day. Well, when they bought Dargo for us, since he was the first bomb dog coming to York County, their publicist wanted to document the process. They wanted to recognize us bringing the dog to the county. So the publicist met with me on this was on a Monday, and I was going to pick up Dargo that Friday. And I said, you know, that's fine, you can come along with me. After all, you bought the dog. You gave us $20,000, so sure. I said, but I'm going to warn you about a couple things. I said, number one, I was in the Marine Corps. That means Friday morning, I'm leaving my house at 3 a.m. If you're in my driveway at 3:10, I will be halfway to Dillsburg. I said, we're going to get to Wapakoneta, Ohio, which is where we got him from, at 11 o'clock, because it's 500 miles from here. I said, I'm going to pick him up, get his paperwork, be back on the road by 11:20, and we will be back in York by 7 o'clock Friday night. She's like, that's fine, I'll be at your house at 2:30 in the morning on Friday. I said, that's fine. She goes back to their office. She starts talking with the guys in the band. She's like, that's great. I met with Lieutenant Godfrey. I have to be in his driveway at 2 in the morning on Friday. They're like, whoa, just take the jet. Well, Live and Think Loud are the majority sponsors for Michael Andretti's IndyCar race team. They flew Michael Andretti's private jet into Thomasville, picked us up, flew us out to Wapakoneta, Ohio in 20 minutes, 500 miles, where they had a stretch Escalade waiting to pick us up, to drive us to the dog kennel, to pick him up, to take us back to the jet, and have us back in another 20 minutes. And I say that for this simple fact. It had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with that publicist. It's that guy right there. To this day, every year, the guys in the band send me a Christmas card. Now, it's one of the fake ones. I get the fake signature ones, but at least they still remember I'm alive. Every year, he gets a package in the mail the next day from the band. It's always a hand-signed Christmas card with real signatures. And then last year, it was guitar picks that had each one of their faces that was also hand-signed. And the guys, they hang out down at Market all the time, and I see them like, really? He gets the present? They're like, dude, you just drive him. So he gets treated royal. Even down at Central Market, Brad will tell you, Bear's Fried Chicken, she has him ruined. If she ever has a bomb threat in that stand, she's done. It's going to be blown up. He goes there for one thing and one thing alone, chicken. He doesn't care about any kind of work. She always tosses him 4 or 5 nuggets. He even goes back for seconds, like 30 seconds later, saying, I wasn't here. And he suckers her into more. He walks by the soup place. She tosses him a couple pieces of bacon. He goes over to Little Sister's Confections for his peanut butter cookie. And then he finishes off over at JR's. Now, if you know Central Market and JR's, he gets busy. Well, JR's gives him a hot dog. Sometimes he doesn't get to cut it. Well, if it's not cut, King Dargo will not eat it. You have to cut it for the master if you expect him to eat it. So again, tell me they are not spoiled. And I'll call you out on that one because they are. They cannot get more spoiled. But I let him spoil him because he deserves it, because he is a really hard worker. Yes?
I have another question. How do they know that this particular dog's nose is going to be as good as it is? What kind of training or is it like a background, Aaron?
Good question. How do you know a dog's going to make a good police dog? Basically, when they're puppies up until 12 months old, it's all based off of their ball drive. And basically what you do is you take, what we use for these guys is a lacrosse ball, because it's really hard for them to tear them up. And we hide the dog from the lacrosse ball, and then we just pitch it out in the middle of the field. And then we send him out to find the ball. If he has the drive to keep searching and searching and searching and not give up, and that ball drive is through the roof where he wants that toy, you know he's going to make a good police dog. If they give up after 10 minutes, they're not going to be a good dog. Because you figure, like for a school search, we'll be on a school search for 2.5 hours, and he has to keep one to search for that toy at the end. If he gives up after 20 minutes, he's not going to be a good dog. So that's how you initially gauge them when they're young. You good? All right. No, Bruce? Now, just to reassure everybody, really, no, Fooey, seats. Yeah, you got yelled at. Nuts. He is not a bite dog. By that, I mean he is not patrol trained. When you have a patrol trained dog, if she was acting up and she was running away from me, I could send Dargo out to take her down. We did not do that work with Dargo, and there's 2 reasons why. When you have a bite trained dog and I have a missing 3-year-old in the woods, I cannot use that bite dog to go find that child. Because when you have a bite dog, the end of their search, that bite is the reward for doing a good job. Obviously, I cannot have a dog bite a child or I'm missing Alzheimer's patient. The other reason is when you have a bite dog, it changes their temperament. They get more aggressive. So we did not want to mess with his temperament because Dargo is so well behaved, but even though he acts like a knucklehead at times and starts barking and going crazy, we can go from full-blown work mode to a preschool. And I've had 50 preschoolers just jump on top of him and it'd be like, all right, whatever. So I did not want to mess with that. That's why he's not bite trained and why we didn't want to do it. And I don't miss not having that. It's not needed, at least not from my perspective. So there.
All right, let's do a whole lot of
Boost.
waving.
Seats, buoy.
It doesn't get any better than that.
And he does have his Facebook page. I have to plug that. For the kids out here, he does jump on the computer himself and he puts his own pictures up there. So feel free to look up Dargo. Any other dogs in the unit.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.